All right, coffee and a smoke with Fergus. Number three, we're going to talk about, well, I guess I'm going to talk about Western astrology, also known as tropical astrology. All right, so this summer I got into astronomy. So I got into looking at the stars and the planets. Oh, and I have this really sweet set of binoculars. They're 10 by magnification. So I'm able to look, I can see the moons of Jupiter with it, and I found um, a nebula. I found the Orion Nebula. I would say I discovered it because I didn't know it existed before I found it with my binoculars. Anyway, it's been a hoot. So I've been spending the summer into the fall. I mean, now it's winter, but I'm still trying to do it. Looking at the stars and the planets, and holy shit, right? So it was probably just a couple of days into this whole process. And I was looking at Mars, and there's Mars in the sky. And it's in between these other things that look really cool. And it was Aldebaran and the Pleiades. So Mars moved right in between them. And those, as I learned, Aldebaran and the Pleiades are in the constellation of Taurus. Now, if you just look at the sky, you would probably not be able to see a bull in the sky because it doesn't look like that. But the Pleiades, which look like a little dipper, and then this bright star, Aldebaran, they're in Taurus. So I'm looking at it, and I think it's super cool. And I decide to look in my daily planetary guide. I have these things going back for years. And in this, now it shows, let's see if we can get close enough here, but it shows basically the planets moving through all the constellations for each day, right? And I've been keeping track of my daily stuff with these things because one day I wanted to cross-reference it with planetary movements and all of that. So anyway, I look in this daily planetary guide and I'm like, let's see what they have to say about Mars. And the daily planetary guide tells me that Mars is in Gemini. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I take my binoculars and I look up, and it's definitely in Taurus, right? It's smack dab in the middle of Taurus. And in the book, it says Gemini. So then I'm like, hold on a second. So then I started looking at all of the other planets. Now, truthfully, the only other planets that I could spot with my eyes at the time were Jupiter and Saturn. But I looked at those, and the book was wrong about both of them. And I was like, holy cow. And then I looked back through all of the calculations, and they're all wrong. Literally, they're all wrong. Now, the reason that happens is because Western astrology or tropical astrology uses a system that was developed 2,000 years ago, more than that. And what happens over time, it's called the precession of the equinox, but the stars will actually shift, seemingly, I mean, according to, in relative to Earth. So on the spring equinox, Western astrology says that the sun is in Aries, right? The first day of spring. And it was true when they developed the system over 2,000 years ago. But it's not true anymore. So once every 72 years, the stars will shift about 1 degree. And that means that now the it's off by like 25 degrees. Now to put that into perspective, one zodiac sign is 30 degrees. So the system that we've all been exposed to, at least in America, and I know there are places in the world where they don't use tropical astrology, but in America, like, I didn't even know there was a different kind. So that system is off by 25 degrees. I was born in August, early August, so it would say that I'm a Leo, but I'm not. The sun was actually in Cancer at that point in time. I'm just getting bummed out about how much breath is mixing with the smoke in this video. Whatever. I'll just keep going. Now, you could make a case to me for there being a seasonal sign. If you were born in the summer, I think that means something. But to call that the sun sign is bullshit, because that's not the constellation that the sun is in. It's not true. So if I was born basically in the middle of summer, so you could say that I have a Leo seasonal sign, but my rising sign, which the Western method would have be Sagittarius, it's false. Scorpio was rising when I was born. And all of the planets are fucking wrong. Mars and Venus and all of them, according to my Western chart, they're all wrong. Actually, that's not true. Mars is still correct because I was cuspy of Mars on one side, but the truth is I'm cuspy on Mars on the other side. So my Mars is still in Aries, but it's cuspy on the wrong side, right? Um, but all the other planets are fucking wrong. They're wrong. And when I noticed this and it started like cascading down, I'm like, holy shit, how can this be true? How can it be true that the people that have been telling me about the stars and the planets forever have never looked at the stars and the planets? And I found that very troubling. I got really mad. And I know that most people who do astrology are not astronomers and they've never really observed Mars or Jupiter, and they could not pick out these constellations in the sky. Now, that's totally fair because if you live in a city, you can't fucking see any stars, right? But at the same time, there has to be some sort of like, I don't know, knowledge base that you have to go on, other than fucking plugging it into a chart on a computer, which, as it turns out, is giving you universally false readings. Holy shit. Now, Vedic astrology, it actually uses the calculations. It actually looks at where the planets and stars are currently. And I believe Chinese astrology does too. And I don't know. I don't know. Like the whole Western system. It's funny because I'm a tarot reader, right? And I've been just through the places that I've been and the people that I've worked with, I've been exposed to astrology for years, years and years. And for some reason, I was always like, someday I will dedicate myself to learning this system. But it just never struck me as being important enough to study. And now I know why. Because what was presented to me was all fucking wrong. So Now it's like, okay, do you study Vedic astrology? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know because currently I'm just observing the stars and the planets, and I'm like, does any of this mean anything? And I believe the answer to that is yes. As I see Mars move through this specific spot in the sky, which it's actually back at now because Mars is in retrograde and is going back through this spot. But in between Aldebaran and the Pleiades, I feel it. I know it means something. Now, Mars there is not the same as Mars, 20 degrees to the left. It just doesn't feel the same. It's not the same thing. So I guess for myself, I'm just sort of trying to find the spots that resonate with me or whatever. The very end of Gemini, it's the heads of the Gemini twins. That seems like a power spot as well. But I think and which is right on the cusp of Gemini. Um, but I feel like there's some of these power spots that have nothing to do with uh, fucking tropical astrology, like literally nothing to do with it. Um, to tropical astrology, for the most part, one part of a sign is the same as any other part of the sign. And and not only that, but their calculations are fucking wrong. It's crazy to me. Well, then the thing is, like, well, I have had this reading, this tropical astrology reading, and it resonates so much. Well, I've never found that to be true. But if you do find it to be true, then that's great. And I mean, I don't know how to fit that, except for I'm a tarot reader. And if I do a reading for you, very specific cards would come out, and I have my interpretation of them. Now, if you mix those cards up, maybe put different cards out from my reading, I could still look at that reading and I would be able to apply it to some part of your life because that's how it works. That's how these archetypes work, you know. Um, and if you are very much into Western astrology, I feel like it would be worth it to do a Vedic chart, which uses where the fucking shit really is, and look at that. Look at the Vedic chart and see if it resonates. And if both of them resonate, then it's like, well, what the fuck's going on there? Does anything mean anything? I mean, you could plug in any goddamn thing, and then, oh, that resonates with me for sure, you know? At which point, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Um, who knows? But I guess that's my rant and my thoughts on Western astrology. I have come to believe, well, it's not even coming to believe. I have seen that it is false. All of and if you get a Western astrology or a tropical astrology chart done, it's going to tell you very specifically how many degrees this planet was in that sign. It's fucking wrong. Why would they lie to you in a very specific manner? It's insane. It's insane. Um, so I've been going through that for a long time. And if you have met me at the coffee shop, you actually have heard this already. But for anyone that doesn't get to have a coffee and a smoke with me, I guess that's what we're doing here. So that's what we got. I would love to hear what you think about this. And I guess that's it for now. Peace.